because I had actually seen his body pass away, and like a lot of emotions come up from that. Seeing a dead body is like an experience that is like insane. And there's like this saying that they say when like you pass away, you're like, God, like you only, like I could have had one more day, you should have given me one more day. And he's like, I gave you your whole life. With you, like you didn't see your dad as he passed away. So like that comes with like a whole nother layer of like guilt as well.
I just knew it was my karma to heal for like our generational line, and I was like, I'm gonna feel the depths of this guilt and this shame, and I'm gonna see it, and I'm gonna let it go, and I'm gonna love myself through it regardless. And I know that I wouldn't let fear keep me from saying goodbye to someone I love, and blah 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 blah
and
blah.
Hate, fear, anger, all that.
Exactly. I would never let that run because I understand the implications now.
It's like whilst those feelings are simultaneously there, you have to show yourself so much compassion and love through feelings of shame and guilt.
Literally.
And it's wild. And you learn from that.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Consciously Thriving podcast.
Hello, welcome back to another week.
We need to do a disclaimer because if you're watching us on YouTube right now, then you can see that we are dressed the exact same.
Literally. Not like we're both in black pants and a black top that are very similar styles.
It's basically the same thing.
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally at all. And this is like something we do like very often. We don't talk about what each other is going to wear, and we rock up in a very similar, close to identical outfit to the point where we are actually made fun of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like people like make fun of us for it, and they think that we're doing it on purpose. They think that we're coordinating our outfits.
We've just merged into one person.
We're literally one being right now. So literally I was coming late. I was off doing something this morning, so Nadia was already inside and she was like getting this whole setup ready for the podcast and I like look over to her and she's looking over to me and I was like, you're fucking kidding me, we're in the exact same fucking outfit. And she's like, are you gonna go change? And I was like, no, because this is like authentic.
It is. Do you know, even one time, like, because we get told, like, because we just give off, we don't look the same, but like we get similar like vibes, like we're similar height, pretty much like the same height. We went to like this festival one time and the guy like tripped out because we were both in like a white tee with like baggy jeans and he's like, I just thought you were twins for a second.
I think it's our energy.
It's like our energy, and also the fact that we're wearing the same thing.
Literally. But people do wear the same thing and people don't think that they're the same person, but we often get that. We get treated like the same person. Like I'll go out with people, like I'll be, you know, hanging out with my boyfriend's like friends and shit like that, and they'll ask me like, where's Nadia? Like confused as to why she's not there.
Yeah, and like, why are you here with Leno and not Nadia?
Literally, like it's confusing for people. They're like, this isn't right.
This isn't right.
You shouldn't be here with him.
That's funny.
And you get the same thing. It's so funny. Like whenever I'm around people, they'll always ask, how's Nadia, and vice versa. It's like, yeah, we're one and the same.
Yeah.
We're one and the same. This is funny. This is ridiculous to me. I was just like, literally, get the fuck out of here.
Honestly.
Anyway, so it's been a hot minute since we've been back to do a podcast episode because, Nadia has had some shit come up.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to talk about it?
You like some shit come up.
I don't know how to word it.
Sounded like I had some limiting beliefs come up, so we needed
to know.
No, so my nono, which is my grandfather, had passed away. It's like 2 weeks now.
Has it been 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just over 2 weeks. We had a delayed funeral just because like my parents like moved in, like everything happened for my family at like the one time.
Yeah. So
I just said to Shule, like obviously I'm grieving and not in the right headspace right now. I couldn't even think creatively.
Yeah, it just wasn't a priority.
It wasn't a priority. So I feel like, you know what, like when you actually are honest with yourself and allow yourself to like take a step back, it's so funny how much you want to get back into it rather than pushing.
Exactly.
Because like this week I've really felt like wanting to get back into work, and not that I completely stopped, like actually no I did. No, I fully did.
You did, yeah.
But like I just feel like more alive to get back into it.
Yeah, because you gave yourself actual space to like process and have your emotions, and no pressure in that as well, like no expectations to like have to produce anything. And I just think that that's like the most beautiful thing you can do for yourself during such a sensitive time. Like, you know, you're with family and it's just, there's a lot coming up, lots of emotions, and we might do an episode on grief because we both have had our experiences with it. And we'll see if that channels through. But wanted to give a little bit of an explanation as to why we've been like a little bit MIA.
Yeah. Before we get into today's episode, can I share a little story about the owls? Because I thought that would be...
Oh my God, yeah, that was such a nice story.
Yeah, so... but yeah, I do agree with everything you said, and I never used to do that. I never used to give myself space. I would feel guilty, and there's not one bit of guilt came up this time, and I'm just like, you know,
yeah, good.
I see the merit in it, and like, it's not what you do, it's how the energy you do it in anyway.
Exactly.
But so my grandma, who was this grandfather who's passed away's wife, she passed away during COVID, so I think like almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when she passed away, I was like getting into spirituality, and I wanted a sign. So I said to the universe, or I said to her, if you're here, show me an owl. And like, I think it was like the next day or that week, Anthony, my partner's mum, sent me like a photo, or he sent me a photo, and there was an owl, because we weren't living together at the time. So at his house, there was an owl that was like on his porch. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff is so real. I got like really excited. And ever since that moment, like I'm obviously a lot, like I, you know, see signs all the time and things like that now. But this was like a representation of her, like that's her sign for me. Mm-hmm. So like whenever I was like, something happens, she's my sign. An owl comes up just as a reminder to be like, you're on the right path or whatever. And then recently, like, I think it was like he had passed away on the Sunday, and the next day, I was literally thinking about them. I had the day, I had the day off or whatever, and I was just like thinking about like wondering if they were together, like just thinking about the process of death, because I had actually seen his body pass away, and like a lot of emotions come up from that. Mm-hmm. Seeing a dead body is like an experience that is like insane, but a lot of emotions came up with that, and just a lot of questions, because of like, I'm like, look what happens to the body, like what happens to the soul, like just naturally being in this space. So I was in that headspace thinking, wonder if they're together or whatever. And then I was like completely off my phone that day. I wasn't on it or anything like that. I was just in the fields, and then I just happened to go on my phone, and the first thing that like popped up was two owls like sitting next to each other side by side. It was like a photo of it. They were so cute as well. They looked like they were just like together. And in the caption, it said like, the universe be sending some signs today. And it was like such confirmation. I just thought that like, that was such a beautiful story to say, like, Nadia, we're here together. Yeah. And and the energy I felt was like, because I was wondering because something you said as well, like my nonna, which is my grandfather, my grandma was helping him transition to the other side or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it looked like in the photo that she was in front. So it kind of just felt like, he's here with me, like I'm protecting him. It was really, really cute.
That's really cute. Yeah. I really love that. I really felt the presence of like your grandma and your grandpa together. Like like when I was at the funeral at the service, I got this like overwhelming sense of joy, which is unusual for like a thing, but I just felt like so much like joy and happiness, and from him and her, and it was like they were like twirling and dancing in like the thing. Cute. Yeah, it was really cute. It was like, I never told you that. I didn't tell you I felt that. Yeah,
I think I was feeling that too. I feel like there's been a part of me that's like, I've felt a lot of emotion towards, because I felt like he suffered the last 4 years without her. Yeah. So I felt like that would like gave me a little bit of relief of like when I saw that. Mm. So it's nice. I just feel like that pain of him missing her, like
losing your spouse. Yeah. No, it was a nice feeling to like, I've never had that at a funeral before, like just like absolute like happiness.
Yeah. And it was like the energy was very much in celebration of his life, because like he did live a very long life. He was 93. Mm-hmm. So
it was very much, it was a different type of funeral. It was sad, but obviously like it's just more of like a closing off like somebody's life chapter. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I'd share that story.
Yeah, it's a really nice story.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. Do we do that episode now? I'm like, it's just channeling through.
Do you think?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I guess we can talk about it. Why not?
It's up to you.
Yeah, I feel like we've done some similar episodes on this, but I feel like the last like couple weeks has you know what? Let's show people what it is to like follow your channel.
Because we were talking about like two things that we've been wanting to talk about on the potty. We want to talk about a lot of like the worldly events that have been happening at the moment, in terms of like with everything. I'm sure everyone knows what's going on. There's lots of shit happening with like the US election that happened, and just all of this other shit happening in the world to women particularly. And we wanted to give our take on it, what we've like learnt in the spiritual space within ourselves. And yeah, we wanted to talk about that. But then we also, like, having gone through this experience of like just recently navigating grief, like we were like, fuck.
And I feel like you've had a wave of it come back with your dad as well.
Yeah. It's been very like prevalent with, just like grieving and like loss of life and just like the confrontation of death. And yeah, it is something that we have spoken about. So we were like contemplating what to do today, and we decided on, you know, doing the first idea, and then we're like, you know, if this comes through next time, we'll do that. But
we're here now,
and we started talking about it, and I was just like, well, why don't we just talk about it? It's obviously channeling through. So yes, this is a representation of going with the fucking flow.
yeah
So
100%.
yeah, why don't you start? Kick
Yeah.
us off.
Well, why don't we start with like what I feel like emotions have been coming up, and like what feelings have been coming up, and what I kind of have, like, I feel like we've spoken about it, but I feel is like it's becoming a really deep, like it's becoming so deep in my embodiment. I feel like it's getting like solidified a little bit more, and like almost, anyway, I'm going to go into it before I like continue there. But basically, so my grandfather had passed away. I knew he would pass away. I think like I thought like a year. I think I said this year I think he'll pass away.
I remember you said that.
I had that feeling that he would, just because you can feel when someone's like slow, and he started getting dementia. Like absolutely crazy that he only really like had these things like the last year of his life. How crazy. 92 years, no sickness, nothing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
The galley genes.
The galley genes on that side. But anyway, so
like I think you had like what even like great grandfathers living to like 103.
Yeah, so his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my grandma, I think they died at 78.
Yeah.
Which was a lot younger than my nonno.
Yeah.
And her mum died at 78 as well. And something she always said was, I'm scared to die the same year. Like, I think, because she was superstitious. She died the same age as her mum.
Really?
Wild, isn't it?
Fuck off. That is wild.
It's wild. But, so crazy when these things happen.
I know.
Being spiritual, you're just like, what the hell?
You think about these things, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so I knew he was, but it was kind of still really sudden, because he went into hospital because he had some tumors on his lung, and one of them had burst. So he had like a semi-collapsed lung, but not really. And obviously you can't survive too long with like one lung that's barely working. So they said, you know, he will pass away soon. So that week we were with my family, and we were there. And basically I wasn't really feeling these emotions like so strongly, but on the Sunday when he had passed away, there was this overwhelming feeling. Like two feelings really came up. I'll talk about like the first part, in which I think like happens a lot when it comes to grief, and that's like where the ego is really present, and you can share a lot of what's coming up for you. But it's like that feeling of guilt that comes up once the person has passed away. And if you've had like a loved one pass away, I'm sure everyone can relate in very different ways for very different reasons. But for me, my ego was starting to get really loud, of feeling like I didn't do enough. Do enough, which is obviously a load of shit. So yeah, it's obviously a load of shit, because no matter what you do, it's just like those emotions are so strong that those feelings of grief can really overtake. So
you were feeling like you didn't do enough. It's so interesting that you felt that way.
Yeah.
Because the way that I saw it was like you were there you were
Every day.
even there prior to that, like that week where you were told that he was likely going to pass away, and making all that effort that week. Even prior to that, you were always the person that was like visiting your grandparents, going to see them, like thinking about them. So it was really interesting to hear you say that was coming up.
Yeah, because my grandparents on this side, we were very close to them. Like, so they were the type of grandparents that like literally picked up from living in the country as soon as we were born and came to live with us so they could be prevalent in our lives. And we always had them, like we had Sunday dinners with them. They were just like such a huge part of our life. They lived 2 minutes up the road. So I had my whole life with them. Like they picked us up from school. Like they were like, you know, do you remember like my grandma like picking me up?
No, we weren't that close. Yeah, at school.
Everyone remembers her red car.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that.
So we were really close. So it's like I knew we had like spent a lot of time together, and I was visiting him a lot. He lived like he was in the nursing home for the last year up the road, and I would see him often. But it was this feeling of like, now that they're gone, and like that feeling of missing them, you're just like, I wish just like, you always feel that feeling of like, I wish I just even that week, I wish I was like hugging him more, just being with him, and like that, I don't know, it just felt like this sense of like, you realize like I'm never going to see that person ever again. And that's like so I think because that feeling was so strong of like, oh, I'm never actually going to see this person again, and that chapter's done, and you realize that, like having someone being in your life, I think the ego finds that feeling really in discomfort. That's what I've realized going through this. It's like the body, I was struggling to feel that emotion to its depth, so then it would come up with like feelings of guilt of I should have done this, I should have done that, or whatever, because it's like hard to process. And I don't know if you've had like a similar experience with that.
For both. I've lost my stepsister and my dad, and that was the entire experience. It's what you're describing. It was just constant, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this, like going back to all of like our interactions and being like, I should have been like this instead, and I should have been like this instead. And I just think it's a real eye-opening experience, because it's like, yes, one thing, it's like the ego is always going to nitpick, but then also it's like a big reality check with presence as well.
So that was like the other thing I was going to share as well, because like that's a big piece to the puzzle. It does wake you up to the present moment.
It's like when you're being so honest with yourself, you're like, but I wasn't fully present with that person, and there could have been moments where I was more.
100%. And like obviously, as you're grieving, there needs to be a layer of acceptance of what is. And like, because that's like something, because that obviously came up for me, but I feel like, I don't know if you want to like go into your story with your dad, because I know you have on the podcast, but with you, like you didn't see your dad as he passed away. So like that comes with a whole nother layer of like guilt as well. So in itself, but then there's also, you've been on a journey of like realizing that was perfect, and accepting that, and loving yourself through that.
Exactly, because there are so many parts to look at, right? There's the part where you know it's your ego, and your ego is always like, it, like you said, it's like it's struggling to process these really difficult emotions, and this is how it's like getting through it, right? It's like it's trying to like translate it, and it's trying to like, it's almost like, even it kind of feels like, the ego is like way to get through things is like, let me fix it, let me solve it, so like, kind of,
or even with the ego, what it does is like, like you said, like lets me fix it, blah blah blah, but it also sometimes it doesn't like being wrong, so it will make reasons for why you're right, and like why you didn't go see your dad or whatever.
I did that for a long time, but that was just like complete denial of like, accepting the guilt that I was feeling. For me, I don't know if, because we deleted some of our old episodes, so I don't know if we deleted that episode, but basically, because this actually did come up through just naturally, because we're so close, like just watching you go through like grief and like being, like,
we're so connected. I wouldn't be surprised, like your dad's spirit, like all of it, like they all connected. We're
so connected to the point where I felt your grandpa pass away the day that he passed away. Like, so like that night I had already gotten a message that he had passed away. But it's funny, like, I don't know what the fuck keeps happening to me, but whenever I get these, like, dreams, it's like I know in the moment that they're real and that they're a message dream, but it's like I'm in denial that they are.
That's an ego, just, like, wanting to be like, maybe it's not or whatever.
Yeah, so I remember that morning I got up and I just, like, it's like I chop it, like, it's like I really quickly convinced myself it was just a dream. It was just because I was talking about him to you the night before or whatever it was. But like that night at 3 a.m. I got a message that he had passed away, like your grandpa, and I had received him in a dream. But it was like, again, it was like a happy pass away, like he was like joyous to go, like, and to be on the other side for him. So we are very connected, but through that, it's like naturally my dad has been like really present, like through that, because I had a lot of like grief come up as well through just my grief of like my dad, losing my dad. So basically, for those of you that don't know, let me explain the story. So my dad and I had a very like rocky relationship, but we like, while we had a rocky relationship, he was like an alcoholic and things like that, and abused like some drugs and things like that, like weed and all of that. he wasn't very emotionally available throughout my life, but we still maintained contact. So we would see each other, like when I was a kid, every week, and then every second week. And then as I got like into my teens and I started driving and things like that, it was like every month or so.
You made, and like, I was around during that period of time where he was still in Australia, because I know you're going to share that part, but I always remember you making effort or trying to make effort to see him.
Yeah, I very much did try and make an effort while he was in Australia to see him. And then basically what ended up happening is his brother ended up coming here, and then he could see that my dad was looking really ill, but my dad would never eat. He would drink and he would do drugs. So like that, he basically lived a life of regret. So he lived a life where he hit my mum, and he made some mistakes, and it was like a real like big scene when I was like 5, and we ended up running away from him because of his like abuse. And then from that, he's just forever shamed himself for that, and like losing his family. Like he had a lot of love for us, he had a lot of love for my mum particularly, and it's like when she had gone away, it's like he could never forgive himself for that. He never let himself love anyone else. He never let himself be happy after that.
Yeah.
Which is like the saddest fucking thing, because it's like you can like, and for so long in my life, I did hold resentment to him. But then it even got to a point throughout my life prior to me getting into this space where I was like, I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to meet somebody else. I was like, you just like stop doing this to yourself.
He never forgave himself.
Never forgave himself. And I think that's important in part to this story that I'm going to like share, right? His whole life was living in remorse and never forgiving himself and drinking his pain away. So that was him. And then his brother came, saw that he looked really sick, and said, why don't you come back to Turkey with us? Da, 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 da. So he ended up going back to Turkey, and I knew that that was the right decision for him at that time as well, because it's just, he was so like sad and lonely, and there was like no life for him here. Yeah. So I was like, I saw him doing that. And you know what's so funny? I don't think I've said that to you, but I remember sitting on the couch. If I cry, I'm going to cry.
Oh, don't. I'm going to cry now.
No, but I remember sitting on the couch.
I'm going to put my coffee down.
Oh my God. Why is this happening?
It's okay.
I just want to tell the story.
That's okay.
But I remember looking at him and being like, that's the last time I'm going to see him.
Yeah, like you just had this feeling.
Yeah. I'm going to cry.
Do you want tissues?
Nah, it's all right.
Are you sure? Do what the Sabrina Carpenter things. She says don't ruin your makeup.
Literally. I'm going to literally use the leg of my sleeve.
Are you sure you don't want tissues?
No, that's fine. Yeah, anyway, so I just want to like keep it together so I can tell the story.
That's okay if you like.
But I'm a very emotional person, so like I cry at literally everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's confronting.
Sorry?
That's confronting. Realizing. But you don't, it's like you're not sure, but you feel it.
Yeah, it's like at the time you don't know, but like at that point I knew that that was going to be the last time I saw him. And I felt like he knew as well. Like the way that he was looking at me, like I felt like something crossed between us where it's like he knew that it was the last time and I knew it was the last time. Anyway, he went to Turkey after that and he lived for 3 years, right? And in that time, I didn't make an effort with him and he didn't make an effort with me, right? So we just didn't really speak. I think we spoke like once or something
Birthdays
like that.
Or something?
Not even. I wouldn't even get like birthday messages.
Well, he would forget. I remember one year he forgot and he called you like the week after.
Yeah, he would forget. I would forget his birthday. It was just kind of like that.
Yeah,
and we kind
contact.
very minimal contact. We didn't really have much to say to each other. But I think for him, it like really came from like shame, you know?
It would.
Yeah.
It's the only reason it would.
Exactly. So that happened. And then basically when he went to go, like basically he was sick. So during that entire time, while he was in Australia, he had cancer, he was sick, and that's how much this guy didn't love himself. Like,
but you didn't know that
no,
he had cancer.
I didn't know.
So just so people know, Shule didn't know he was sick.
Yeah, I didn't know he was sick. Like, he looked sick, but he always looked sick to me because he was, like, abusing drugs.
He didn't look after himself.
He didn't look after himself. But his brother had been living in Thailand. So when his brother came to see him, my uncle, he was looking at his face and he could see, you know, when you've been like, there's been space between the person, he could see, because he wasn't seeing him regularly, that something was wrong.
Yeah.
So he took him and he tried to take him to doctors. Dad wouldn't go. Anyway, he kept this cancer to himself. Like, this is how much he, like, didn't love himself.
And also maybe denial.
Like kept it to himself, didn't tell anyone, and he went through that on his own to the point where the cancer literally took over his entire body, and it basically got to the point where obviously it was terminal, and he ended up losing like ability to walk and things like that, like became paralyzed, and it was just like really, really traumatic at the end. But when they had found out finally that he had cancer, because obviously it was getting so progressively worse, my uncle called me, and he calls me and he goes, your dad's passing away, he has cancer, you should come and see him. And I remember just being in like, I was so scared. Like that was the biggest thing I was scared of, like saying goodbye to somebody that I loved, like,
of course,
like a parent. Like we had such a rocky relationship.
But that also adds another layer to it as well, because then you're also like, that's what I was actually thinking about, like as I was like grieving my grandfather, there's like one thing of like someone passing away, but then when you've got layers of feeling like you've had a rocky, like you love the person, but there's another layer of like so much rockiness and unhealed trauma between the two.
Lots of unsaid words. There is, it's like you're his daughter and he's your dad. And it's just like, you just leave, like you're just kind of leaving Earth on just like such a rocky ground. Yeah. And whilst navigating, having a love for this person who's your dad. Yeah. Just like wishing it could have been different. But then the most that was coming up was I was terrified. Yeah. I was so scared.
Yeah, I remember.
And this was actually this was the year right before my spiritual awakening, where I was the worst I've ever been. I've been in the worst mental headspace. I was like having anxiety every day. I didn't know, like I felt like I was losing myself in life, and it was like really rocky. So anyway, I had made the choice not to see him. So
But can we just add to the mix that you were also going on a holiday to Europe?
Yeah, no.
So there was an opportunity there, yeah.
No, I had the chance to see him. I was literally going to Europe that year. I could have seen him. I could have gone to Turkey. I could have seen him. And I made every excuse under the sun not to see him, to the point where I told him to his face, like they had made him call me to say, hey, I want to see you. And I said no to his face. Like literally proper was like, I'm not seeing you. And I used our trauma as the reason why, and I used that to fight behind. And I remember during that time, like you were telling me to go see him, my mum was telling me to go see him.
It's a lot of people that said don't as well.
Lots of people said don't,
and I still stand to my word with this. Actually, like I feel like maybe that was my spiritual side coming out. I'm just like, I don't think I said it's wrong if you don't. I think like I said,
you'll regret it.
You may regret it, and then also, you may regret it, and like. Yeah. Just like closing that chapter. Yeah. I don't think I expressed this like in a like pushy way. I never pushed you, but I always felt like you could have just gone to say goodbye and say like, he was a part of your life and he did raise you to an extent, just to say goodbye. But also that was perfect.
Exactly. So no, you did say that. And I do agree with that. Like, there's actually been moments now, particularly in my, when I was like a skin therapist, when I was working in that job, where people have been in similar situations to me, where they've had really shitty relationships with their dad, and then the dad has been passing away, and then they look like they were talking about it to me, and I like, from my experience, I was like, what I know is go see them. Like, literally, because then at least you've done like everything on your behalf, and you don't walk away like having regret. You know what I mean? It's just like you did everything you could have done. Whereas for me, it's like I let fear keep me from that experience.
And you know what else it is as well? I think like a lot of people, and I think like every situation is really different. I think like whatever, like there's like, we just want to say this is like no right or wrong. It's like what's perfect for you. But a perspective that like kind of helps me, and I'm sure I know that you embody this now, is like a lot of people may not, in your situation, wouldn't have wanted to see their dad, because it's like, well, fuck you, like why now? You could have made more effort. And
that's what I was saying at the time.
Yeah, like you could have made more effort.
I was like, you didn't talk to me in 3 years, blah 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 blah. Yeah.
And there's something to that, because I feel like there's a vulnerability to when you're passing away, because that's when you really realize what matters. And I'm like, there's something in that I'm just like, it's nice to offer. Yes, it doesn't mean you have to forgive someone just because they're passing away, and you like, there's two sides. It's like, you don't have to be like, you know, whatever. But I think there's something beautiful in being able to offer forgiveness and heal while someone's like kind of passing away, and like putting that judgment aside, as now like going through spirituality and understanding the ego and understanding why like people operate the way they do, rather than having such a hatred. And yeah,
no, I agree. I like holding on to that hatred is not helping anything or anyone. It's like it's not helping that like soul heal, it's not helping you heal. It's just, and that was very much like that was the point, like I said, right before my spiritual awakening. So I was in the most negative person in the history of the world at that point. Like, I don't even remember that version of me because it was crazy. I was so negative. I was so... I really, like, got affected by death as well, in that, like, I hated how people changed with death. Like, that was a big thing that I would always say. I was like, why the fuck that when you die, you then choose to be different? Like, no.
And that is, like, that... And to be honest, I do, like, have extents where I agree. Well, like, it doesn't always mean that you have to forgive. I think like forgiveness is a big part of healing, but it doesn't mean like that all of a sudden it makes what that person did okay. There's just a layer to realizing that holding the resentment isn't helping.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And to be honest, like with this situation, like I was just as much I was a part to play in it.
Yeah. Okay.
As well. Like with like, not like, why didn't I contact him as well? Do you know what I mean? Like, even though I think that's what just kept happening. It was like I felt like I'd always been the one making the effort and trying to like make and form this relationship with him. But he just wouldn't give me anything. Yeah. So then when he went away, it was easy to just be like, well, fuck this. Like, I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah. And then because I was such an angry, resentful, hate-filled person at that point, like, I just couldn't, like, and I was so afraid of like my fears and my anxieties, and my biggest fear was saying goodbye to somebody that I loved. It was just like it all manifested like that. So I had made that choice not to do those things.
Yeah.
And to be fair, when I was in Europe, he was paralyzed by that point. So he wasn't even responsive. He wasn't even there. So there is that. But yeah, he died the day after my birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Held on just that little bit.
Yeah. He held on just that little bit longer, and then he died then. So since his death and since my spiritual awakening, as you can imagine, there's lots of grief and emotion there, and there's lots to process, which I'm still on a journey of like processing. But I held a lot of like hatred and anger towards myself for the choices that I made during that time. And it often just comes up from time to time where I'm literally just like grieving.
That's it. And that's the thing with grieving and healing. It's not like you process it once and then it doesn't come up again.
Exactly.
And something like that we spoke about when we were talking about the other day with Shule having these emotions come up is because you've done so much work around it, and because you've done so much feeling your emotions and healing with it, at the moment, like last week when it was coming up, there was this energy towards you grieving your dad, where it's like those feelings were there, but you no longer identified with them. You no longer were looking at the decisions you made as like fucked or anything like that. You're like, you're fully aware that that was like perfect for what it was, because of the state of consciousness you were in. And like and that's the same thing. It's like you can also wish something different and then also know that that's perfect. And like, that's such a funny thing to like balance, because it's like if it was meant to be different, it would have been different. And you would have had the resources available to like have the consciousness to make a different decision.
Well, actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, that was like the purpose of me telling his life story of like how he lived his life, and then versus like how he died, and versus like with the decisions I made, and then the guilt and the grief I was feeling afterwards. Like, it was like exactly that. I was like, I couldn't change my decisions. Like, I had made those decisions. So it took me actually having to own it, first of all, because I was gaslighting myself and everyone around me going, no, I don't feel guilt. Like, this is like, blah, 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 blah. This is like, you know, a decision that I was happy to make, blah, 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 whatever it is. There's that. But then also like, so I had to like come to terms with it. I had to realize I couldn't change it. If I was going to make a different decision, as you said, I would have. And then there was this part of me that realized, I was like, oh, this is exactly how he lived his life. He lived his life in regret, and he never offered himself forgiveness. So I just knew that like this was like our karma to like heal. And it was like, who am I going to be in the same situation that he's in, where like I'm shaming myself, and I'm like, because I was shaming myself to the point where I was like, you don't deserve good things, you're a shitty person, blah 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 blah. Like I had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and I remembered I was just like, this is exactly what he did to himself.
Yeah.
And this is like, I just knew it was my karma to heal for like our generational line. And I was like, I'm going to feel the depths of this guilt and this shame, and I'm going to see it, and I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to love myself through it regardless. And I'm just going to be like, now I know. Now I will, like, I know that I wouldn't make that decision. I know that I wouldn't let fear keep me from saying goodbye to someone I love and blah, 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 blah,
and
blah.
Hate, fear, anger, all that.
Exactly. I would never let that run because I understand the implications now.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny how like, so it's so funny how like you can learn. I just think it's crazy like with this, because it's like you can learn from something and then apply that to yourself. So it's like at that time you had like so much grief and things like that, but then it's like whilst those feelings are simultaneously there, you have to show yourself so much compassion and love through feelings of shame and guilt.
Literally.
And it's wild. And you learn from that.
Literally.
But I think that brings us to the number one thing that I think death is the biggest teacher on. And that is through all the decisions you make, through all the grieving, all the parts that you wish you did something differently. I think the biggest lessons I've learned, obviously there is that part of like, understanding that like the decisions you made with someone who maybe have passed away, the life that you had with them, the reality you had with them is perfect. And then also it's a wake-up call to actually be a lot more present and realize that like the present moment is everything. And I think like I feel like when people hear that, it's so easy to just hear that and be like, yep. But this week, I swear to God, and obviously it's a practice, like when it's not easy for us when as a species that knows about the past, and we know that there's like a future, even though it's an illusion, the future is only ever the present. It can be really hard to still get caught up in worrying about the future, thinking about this, thinking about that, and not living here. But I feel this experience just like it's really shown me that there is actually nothing else that really does matter. Like it genuinely nothing else matters than this moment, because when you lose a loved one or when death is at the cards, that's like the number one thing that all you want is like, you know. And there's like this saying that they say when like you pass away, you're like, God, like you only, like I could have had one more day, you should have given me one more day. And he's like, I gave you your whole life. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just want to like preface like those in the world of manifestation, and because obviously like a manifestation is a big part of what we teach, right? You know, being open to receiving in this life, but like being in this present moment, this has been a big thing we've been learning. I'm not surprised that like my grandfather was passing away during this period of like really understanding the present moment and realizing that like everything you want, you currently have in this moment, love, happiness, all of it. And I just want to really preface like everything that you are after, everything that you think you want, you have right now, and you have the opportunity. Because when you pass away, like when you're on your deathbed, no one's going to be asking you about like what did you achieve, how much money did you have. Nothing. You won't care. No one cares about any of that. All they cared about is like the people that they had around them. Like my grandfather, like none of that even mattered.
Yeah, the message is like, don't wish your life away.
Yeah, worrying about and trying to get more, trying to have more, trying to be someone, trying to do these things. Like if those things happen in your life as a byproduct of, you know, something you're here to do, or, you know, the way that you're living your life, fine. That's like fantastic. I'm like not saying we're against like going after the things that you want and doing things that you enjoy doing.
It's just about like not making it your only reason for living, because there's so much more to life.
There's like it's the truth of it is what you're actually after is to enjoy this moment, right? Like it's to enjoy life. Like that's only what the soul ever wants. Like, and yeah.
You know what I like saw as well? I don't know if I mentioned this because that day was like pretty busy, but when I was looking at the photos of your grandpa and I was seeing everyone around him, I'm gonna cry again. Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Make me cry.
Sorry. When I was seeing the photos of your grandpa, what the fuck, Shule? I saw that the only thing that mattered was the people around him.
Yeah.
But like, I just saw it was just like, it didn't matter how much money they were making or like what they were doing or what they were achieving. It was like,
what mattered, honestly, is love.
it literally just like all having each other through this experience and experiencing life together. And I could just see like that was the lasting piece. Like for him, it's like the relationships, the people in his life, the things that he learned from them. You know what I mean? Like,
and I don't know, yeah, of course I know what you mean. By the way, I'd just like to acknowledge that. I don't know if it's because when I met my grandparents when I was born, they were in their retirement phase.
yeah.
And I'm like, if I look back at their life, they were very present, right? Because like, but I'm like, I don't know I can't speak for their life before that. But something I always found, I don't know if it's a generation or it's like my grandparents, like I really feel like they loved their life. Like they really did. Like they had a big family, like the people around them. Of course, like there's ego and we get caught up in that. But I do find that generation, like, you know, even probably because of the technology that they didn't have, they were like forced to be a lot more present. And like even when my grandma's, like she would always reminisce on like the moments she had, the stories that she had to tell. And I just like, there's something to take from like those generations that like potentially didn't have technology, didn't have like all the, I don't think there was this big thing of like career and achieving this and achieving that, you know, like yes, there was like the work hard and make something of yourself and things like that. But I don't feel there was such a strong of importance of status and validation and things the way this generation have been programmed.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to learn from that. Because like when I do look at those photos, I do feel presence and I do feel like...
That's what I felt. I couldn't really like put words to it.
That's exactly what it is.
I felt presence.
They were. Yeah. And because I think... I'm not blaming technology. Like that's obviously the human being who's abusing it.
Yeah.
But they weren't like the way that this generation is so fixated on thinking about the future and things like that. They were... They were
just here.
Yeah, like the farm life. They all lived together. It was very much like...
It was like community and just like relationships. And it was beautiful to like see, like, and I could literally feel that through the photos.
Lots
as well.
of community. Yeah. And I think, they had so many people in their life. Like their families were huge.
But I could see like that was what made his quality of life.
Well, something to even... feel with my grandparents, they were both very scared of death. And like that also says, I mean, we're all scared of death, but like they loved their life. Like they didn't want to leave us. Like they were happy to really be here. And like that also is a testament to, you know,
how
what
much
they put into
loved
their life. And I just think like there's something to really, really learn from that.
Yeah, I agree. I just think death is just such an illuminator. It's the biggest teacher. It really, like we've said this in past episodes, like, you know, something I often contemplate death throughout the day. I'll just be like,
we don't contemplate it enough though.
I know we don't, but like because we don't, like it's something that I actively try and do. But then like actually being faced with it, like, you know, like with this experience and everything, I'm just like, whoa, like this is, it really reminds you.
It does. And I feel like going through this experience for the last 2 weeks, because he was like the last grandparent. So I feel like I was saying goodbye to like that part of my childhood.
Yeah. You're grieving like that chapter
and both of them.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I was like...
It's like they were like a unit.
And they were. And I feel like they were a unit and like saying goodbye to them. Thank you for everything they've done. And even in like the eulogy, like the stuff that they did, like I have to thank them for the risks that they made. And that generation as well. They did a lot of risky things.
Yeah. They really trusted themselves.
They trusted themselves and they trusted just to like follow opportunity and follow
They had come to Australia like completely unaware.
They didn't even know what's Australia. Like, let's go try it. Let's go see.
Let's go on a boat halfway across the
world.
world.
They took so many risks in that generation to see like where life could take them and what they could make of their life.
Yeah.
But most of all, they all wanted each other, right? Like they had each other. But now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I feel like at this point, like having gone through this feeling of, you know, even like with the recent teachings of Michael Singer, I feel now in my body more than ever, and I'm sure this will continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And yes, there is moments that you can get caught up, but I feel in my body now that it's hard for me to like stray away from that being the ultimate truth of life. That the present moment is...
It's the only thing that matters.
The only thing that matters. Like every time, any limiting belief that comes up, any story that comes up, you still like brought back down to this truth of like, none of it matters.
No, I completely second that. Like, it's interesting to see, like, where our spiritual journey has, like, taken us, because I was actually just, like, having this conversation with friends on the weekend, and I was just saying it's funny how, like, when I first started in this space, it was like I was so into, like, exploring the spiritual world, and I was, like, living up there. Like, I was a psychic. I was so curious about extraterrestrials, about spirit guides, about all of it. Like, I wanted to know everything that this universe had to offer. I was so curious about energy readings. I'm like, whoa, like, how can I read somebody from halfway across the world and, like, get this, like, information? And it was just, like, insane to me. And I remember, I don't know if I ever told you, but, like, there was, like, one point on my, I think I did. There was, like, one point on my journey, like, I would just meditate all day, every day. But, like, there was one point on my journey where I literally was in this meditation, and I was, like, traveling up as I usually do. And I was like, oh, what can I discover about the universe and shit like that today? So I'm, like, traveling with this, like, Andromeda being, if you know extraterrestrials, then you know what I'm talking about. But I was, like, literally traveling the cosmos with this being that I was, like, identifying as my spirit guide. And I was just like, yeah, I'm like, what can you teach me? Blah, blah, blah. And he just looked back at me, and he was like, there's nothing left to learn. And I was like, what do you mean? And then he was like, there's none of everything that you've been doing is actually relevant to your experience on Earth. And he's like, it's like done, finished.
Because you are having a human experience, and that's the point of that.
Literally.
I think it's, like, fun to explore, but, like, not to the, because you were obviously
I was bypassing
you didn't even want to be in the human experience.
I didn't want to be in the human experience. I wasn't in the human experience. I was just living up there. And I remember, like, I literally went from being so, like, there, ethereal, like, in that realm, to, like, just completely physical. I remember that moment, like, my spirit, like, came back into my body, and I had no interest in like discovering anymore. And I was just like, I'm here. None of that is relevant. I'm here. And but now it's like through that moment, since then, it's taken like a while, but it's like not only like I'm here, it's like my spiritual journey was very, and we've spoken about this, like the manifestation community can be a little bit ego based as well, with like constantly focusing on like achieving, wanting. Exactly. And then it's like when you go on your spiritual journey and you're like really like on this path of like freeing yourself from yourself, it's like you realize like none of that actually matters. And now it's like I've gotten to this point of the spiritual journey where I was like, wow, there's really like nothing left to become, there's nothing left to do, there's just here, this moment right now, and that's perfect and that's enough, and this is the point of spirituality. So it's funny how it's like the journey like just came like full circle, and it's just like,
and it's like, and and I think like we've both gone through this, but I'm like, I think like sometimes like when you've gone through a stage of like getting the things that you want, getting the holidays, getting all that, and then you don't feel better with it, I think like going through that experience just makes you realize like, okay, this is all about being happy internally. This is nothing to do with the outer world. This is everything to do with your internal world.
Exactly.
And that's like a big thing like that I know for, you know, even the rest of this year, and like to for beyond, like that's what our like coaching spaces are going to be like now. It's going to be really heavily focused on internal worlds.
Well, it's funny, it's like that was already like such a big part of our message. It obviously was,
but it's like a deepening.
It's a deepening into that. And it's interesting to even see like the clients that have been coming into my space since like this like level of awakening, and like what they're looking for out of life as well. It's like, and the clients that I've had that are now like growing and evolving with me, it's just really interesting to see like how that like naturally deepens, like how your work just like your clients grow with you and things like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's just the only thing that matters, because life is too short.
Because and that's like what your soul, what you want is internal. It really is. It really is. The happiness, the feelings that you think money is going to give you, the abundance, like you have access to those feelings now. It's got nothing to do with what you have, anything like that. And like that freedom you're looking for is all there right now internally within you. So why on earth would you worry too much about the outside?
Exactly. And I feel like that's just such a like good way to finish off this episode on like death. I'm like,
it's been so intuitively, but I love it.
Yeah, it has been. I feel like
these are the type, like when we channel and when we just go with the flow, like that's what we've also been after. So I was just like, wow, like we didn't put any pressure on this. We just went with it. Yeah. And it's something we've been saying that we want to do.
Yeah, so no, I'm glad that we like had this like chat, because it's something that has been so prevalent for us. Like, because I've been going through like just like letting go of those emotions, acceptance with all of it, and like just sitting with everything that comes up with grieving. Grieving is such like an up and down experience as well. It's just
I
like,
don't think like, yeah, you know how they used to say you'll never like get over the person, just time heals wounds. I actually don't feel, I think like time helps you adjust, because like as humans you realize how adaptable you are.
Yeah.
We are so,
that freaks me out.
that freaks me out.
How adaptable we are.
Yeah, and then you'll get waves of like missing the person. Like I've really seen that. Like I've been like so up and down. It's like honestly sometimes I'm just like, Jesus, I feel like a wrecking ball. But that's just like a part of grief, and like that's something to, it's just what it is. It's what's processing emotions. And I do feel it gets a little bit easier and easier in terms of like, you know, now with your dad you are at this stage where it's like you're no longer identifying and believing because you've done so much healing around it. But I think grief is always there, and you'll always be inclined and to miss the person.
Yeah.
It's so normal.
Exactly right. And I think also we see death so differently now as well.
Yeah, we do.
Like, I feel like with my stepsister, she passed away during my spiritual awakening, and I was very like aware, and you know, I knew I wanted to, because I knew how I handled my dad, so I knew with this I wanted to be really present with all of the emotions and not shy away from the pain, and like fully like open my heart up to all of it. And honestly, like I learned so much through that grieving experience. I learned exactly that, like the up and the down nature of it all. But you know, I also got the message that my sister was, like my stepsister was going to die.
Wow.
Which is insane.
So you had that feeling.
Like, I keep getting the message like of when something happens or when somebody's going to die.
Don't tell me when I'm scared.
Babe, that's my biggest fear.
You get told I'm going to die.
Like if I get told like somebody, like one of you guys like is going to die, that I had to set boundaries. I had to be like, I don't know where the fuck this is coming from, why this is happening. But like with your grandpa wasn't a bad thing, because it's like he had already passed.
Yeah.
And it was more of like a happy
and you knew
thing.
that it was,
I knew he was
going
going
to
to
be within the next few days.
Exactly. So that was okay. But I don't know, like after my stepsister, like it was like 2 weeks before she had passed away, I woke up and I was like, I looked to Daniel and I was like, Caitlin's gonna die. Like I was like, God. What the fuck? I was so scared. He was like, no, Shule, it's not gonna happen. You're fine, blah, blah, blah. I was like, she's gonna die. I felt it. I was like, and then I convinced myself that it wasn't gonna happen. I was like, no, Shule's da, 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 da. I told my sister Olivia about it. And then when it happened, Olivia messaged me and she's like, Shule, what the fuck? It was insane.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I knew that, like, do you know what's so funny? You even had dreams of your, I don't know how to call him your stepdad because they're not technically together, but Matt.
Yeah.
Of his
I know,
parents.
they're not actually together anymore, but I'm like, they're not, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
They were my stepdad and stepsister for a long time.
Because now you got a new one.
Now I've got a new one. Oh my God. Jasmine.
Do you know what? Like,
My
we're really funny with each other.
Yeah.
So I always make a joke, like, this is funny that Shule has like 3 daddies.
I have 3 daddies. I'm a new daddy. We're always joking about it.
We're just having a laugh. But
literally an abundance of daddies.
Honestly,
I've
so
never
like,
felt like Shut the fuck up. All right,
Shut up. Literally, like you were blessed.
Exactly.
But anyway, you did have, like, before you got into spirituality, a dream of Matt's parents once. Was it Matt's parents or Matt's grandma?
Yes.
And she was talking to you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was prior to my spiritual awakening.
Yeah, and what creeped me out was
Yeah.
that you said that you had a dream, and then she I don't know, something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, she had passed away.
Right, okay.
Yeah. She was already like.
But no, Matt was like really feeling her recently. That's what it was.
Yeah, that was the only spiritual experience that I've ever had prior to my awakening, where I was, one day I'd gone to sleep and I was taken on a journey. This wasn't a dream. I've never had anything like this since, where I was on a fucking like journey with his grandma, with my stepdad's grandma. My stepdad and I were very close. And I like was on a journey, and she's like, I wish I could have known you in this life. Like, we were hanging out in death, and she's like, I wish I could have known you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I wish I could have known you too. It would have been so good. And then she was like showing me Matt there, but I knew that he wasn't present with us, but it was like me and her. So I knew that we were like spirits. Like, it was crazy. And then we were on this like full fun adventure. I was getting to know her. She was getting to know me. And then it's like when I woke up, it felt like I had been like sucked into my body, and I was like, And then I was like, I woke up and I was like, that was the wildest experience I've ever had. I didn't have words to put to it though. And then that, like, I had told Matt that I had dreamt of her, and then he's like, what the fuck? And we hadn't spoken about this. He's like, I've been feeling her presence for the last week because he was going through something. Yeah. So that was insane. That was the only, like, that, yeah. Like, I've actually had, like, not like that visceral of an experience, but like even like my dad coming back, Caitlin coming back, like I've asked them questions and things like that. Have you done that with your grandma and grandpa?
Oh yeah. And
you have them like coming back in dreams?
Yeah, I think like for me, I feel like my grandma, I mean, not with my nono yet, I've actually been scared, a little bit scared, because for me,
it's like too confronting.
I feel like I just saw him like 2 weeks ago. He was here. Like that's been a big thing. Like that's been freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah. Like they were here and then they're not.
Yeah, like it's still a bit raw. Like that's why I'm like, I'm scared to ask him like questions because it feels a bit whatever.
Yeah.
But with her, she has come in a few dreams where I've like asked, and I feel like there's a lot of just like feelings of feeling embarrassed about, because like she was like really like you know that generation, like she was very wog, and she used to like judge a lot, like what I was wearing and things like that. And I feel like she's come in a dream being like, I'm sorry, like none of that actually like matters. Not that
she used to hate what I wore.
Yeah,
she used to hate what I wore.
Anyone with like that flush.
She used to grease me. She was so bad. Funny. I forgive you. It's fun. It's like I find it funny.
But I think like for her, even like with my mum and stuff like that, like she just she was just very. Like my mum was scared of her.
It's just that older generation.
No, but like that, and then no, I think it was a lot of her, like because not all, like her sister wasn't like that. Like Anthony's grandparents, like they're all from that, and they're not. Like Anthony's nonna tells me to flash.
Really?
Basically, like she'd be like, she's the best.
She's so funny.
Like if I'm like,
she's like my favorite human.
Oh, she is the best. Anthony's nonna, I love her. She like literally, like if I'm wearing something that's short, and
we need to get her on the podcast.
She's like sexy. Like she'll be like, no.
Really?
Always, yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. Okay, so it was just your grandma. Why did she say she did that?
She didn't say why. She just had, like, probably her mum. Like, that's what they were like. Like, just like that. They cared a lot what people thought. That's what it was. I didn't even, like, I feel like a lot of that generation didn't even, it wasn't even their own beliefs. It was what was, like, programmed and given to them. Yeah. And they were very, like, she grew up with money as well. So I feel like they were very classy and, like, always wore, like, really nice outfits. So, like, me, like, she hated, I would rock up in like a tank top and leggings, and that generation, like they would wear dress,
basically naked.
Yeah, no, not even, it wasn't even that, it was like with the quality of the stuff, like they would wear dresses every day, like they cared, like that generation, they put in so much effort. So I think it was a lot of that as well. Like she couldn't wrap her head around that. She tried to, like she's like, oh yeah, you know, you've got to, but she would always say to me, buy good quality this, good quality that, blah blah blah.
It's like reminding me of when I was in Turkey. In Turkey, they're very conservative over there. And I remember once I was wearing leggings and I was like on the streets and they were all yelling at me to go back to Australia. Literally, they're like, go back to Australia, you slut. And I was like, you think leggings are bad? Wait till you see half the other shit that I wear. Like my ass is hanging out, my titties are out. It's all on display.
But even like being in Europe, they dress really nice. They do dress really nice. Like I actually like what they wear.
I don't care about clothes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm like, I don't really look at what people
I love like
wear.
some of the, like when I was in Europe, I love the Europe fashion. I think it was hot.
I don't even remember it. Like all I think about is like the landscapes and things like that. That's what stays with me.
Yeah, fair.
I didn't even go shopping in Europe. Like like I did not go to the shops.
Yeah,
like it really actually blows my mind that people like go to the shops while they travel.
Yeah.
I'm just like, really?
That's it. But yeah, no, it's just different.
This conversation took a turn.
But anyway, we're here for it.
We're here for it, yeah. I feel like that was everything I wanted to say. I don't even know what came through, but I'm trusting it.
Yeah, let's just trust it. We hope you really love this episode. Let this be a reminder. Like, this is just a reminder, just us two besties with you chatting and just reminding you that, like, if you've been caught up in worrying about the future, thinking about the future, let this serve as a reminder. Like, everything you want, everything you think you are after is like all here right now, and like just focus on being appreciative and loving every day that you're given, because it truly is a blessing. Yeah, and if you're grieving, I think like just open your heart up to the experience, no matter what it is. If you have hurt there, if you have regret, if you have like should haves, if like there's a range of emotions, like don't shy away from them. Know that you're not alone in that, and
there's so much healing to be had when you fully open your heart up to the experience of like that pain and that love and the depth of it all. It really teaches you a lot about yourself, about your ability to be able to hold all of that, and just the beauty that death actually offers us as well, which is the importance of living now and the importance of loving as hard as you can now as well, right? Like not holding back, not letting hate like keep you back from that shit as well. So
yeah,
that wasn't eloquently said, but I feel like you get the message. But yeah, just like opening your heart up to the experience of grief, and yeah, know that you're not alone in that. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you.
And don't forget to rate and review our podcast on Spotify or Apple.
Exactly.
Follow us on the YouTube. I'm doing this and I'm absolutely butchering it, but
no,
show us some
ahead.
love on YouTube. If you're listening to our YouTube channel, drop a comment, drop a follow. Make sure you like and subscribe.
There you go.
You can do it.
Look at the YouTuber over there.
Yeah. But no, thank you. If this episode helped you in any way, like, we love to hear your feedback. Like, let us know. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and sitting with us.
Yeah, we'll see you soon next week,
in the
likely.
next episode.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.